Technology is moving at an incredible pace. Innovation is coming from everywhere, from hardware manufacturers, software, operating system, from web and app developers. And from a marketer's perspective, it's tough to keep up. They're often caught out by the emergence of a new particular form factor. That can mean the loss of competitive edge, or it can just mean the missed opportunity to have a conversation with customers via the customer's choice of communication channel.
One of the key findings from the Q2 2014 report was that we are seeing this emergence of new vendors in specific markets. Now, you'd expect to see that in markets like India and China. So, for instance, the growth of Xiaomi in China, now that's for the first time gone over 10%. That's up from 7% the previous quarter. When we look at India, we see companies like Micromax, for instance, also making more of an impact in the Indian market. But what's really interesting from the results that we've seen this time is the same trend. So these local vendors also impacting markets like France, for instance. Wiko, which is a French manufacturer, they grew their share from 2.6% in Q1 up to 2.9% this time. Similarly in Spain, local Spanish vendor BQ, they've made their first entry into the top 100 devices. So it's not exclusive to France, we're seeing it in other markets as well, and all of these vendors will want to also move into other markets around Europe. We've already seen Wiko in Belgium's traffic, for instance, and they're looking also to come to the UK.
With people using different types of device, it represents a point of differentiation that marketers can use to target and tailor their message and the experience they want to give to customers. For developers, instinctively it doesn't feel like such a good thing. They've got to cater to lots of different types of device, potentially different operating systems, different screen sizes, etc. The good news is that developers now have tools available to them to help them combat this issue. They have analytics to find out exactly what's going on in their user base, and they have tools to enable them to adapt content, adapt technology to deliver a great experience on every single device.
Another technology that we decided to have a specific look at this quarter was 4G, and specifically the uptake of 4G amongst the top 100 devices in each country. For instance, at the top of the scale, you have countries like South Korea, the United States. In both of those countries, more than 50% of the top 100 devices are 4G, which means that consumers in those countries are much more likely to have access to those faster networks. And then when you look at it at the other end of the scale, you have countries such as China, for instance, where it's only 7% of the top 100 devices. What this means for marketers is, in actual fact, when you think about things like bounce rate, one of the most important things is speed, and that is linked directly to bandwidth. But even in the United States, where we're seeing that uptake of 4G, it doesn't necessarily mean that consumers are always getting those faster access speeds. So for marketers, it still is about, actually the key important thing is to understand what kind of bandwidth speeds are your customers actually receiving, and does that impact the type of designs, the type of experiences that you want to give to those customers. One of the key things, again, that we saw this time was the increased use of smart TV for surfing the web. And that's something we again expect to see throughout the rest of this year. It's important for marketers in terms of trying to decide when to introduce that as part of their mobile strategy. But also we're seeing changes in terms of our own device database, in the sense that there are many more types of devices that are appearing in the database, things like wearable computers. So Google Glass famously comes to mind, but also things like smart watches, for instance, also making an appearance. And again, we'll be keeping a close eye on that trend in the near future to see how that starts to impact consumer behaviour, and specifically whether that has any implications for how they interact with the mobile web.
The key then is for digital marketers to make use of the technology available so that they can understand the devices being used today by their customers, and they can also track trends over time, enabling them to make better decisions about when to start experimenting with new technology and when to start shifting to a greater investment.